Hey folks, we're back and we're going to get into some type tips and tricks, and then I'm going to talk about this concept of evolved design. And, this builds off of our type study, so we're going to head back there, and we have all our fonts, and we have a bunch that we've just decided we don't want anymore. So I think what we can do is we can probably go ahead and get rid of those. And then let's move these just off to the side here. And I'm going to do a new save as on our file. NRP252, that's my tag. And I'm going to type, I'll call it type, or how about this? Text, not demo, but text play, because that's what this is. I'm going to kind of play and experiment with text. I'm not quite at making my logo yet, but I'm going to just kind of start out. So I'm going to grab this text here, right? This Arby's text. Make it a little bigger so you guys can see at home. And I'm going to go to my character palette, Command T or Control T on a PC. And so I have this, my Bernard MT condensed, and I'm going with regular. That's what I have to work with. So, especially if you've taken 222, this should be pretty familiar with you, but just in case it's not. So we have our font size where we can make this bigger or smaller. We can also go ahead and just do that with the bounding box, right? We can make it bigger or smaller with the bounding box. Always hold down shift. We have leading. If we have 2 lines of text, I don't have 2 lines of text here, so I'm not worried about this. We have tracking, which will increase or decrease the space in between letters, and that's a global change. And then along with that, we have kerning, which can increase or decrease the space between 2 specific letters. That's a local change. So that's the stuff that we kind of got to work with originally, right? So we got to start there. So here's a trick. Here's a trick. We will go ahead and we'll select our text. I'm going to hold down the Option key, and I'm going to, or Alt on a PC, I'm going to use my left arrow. And check this out. I get my tracking. See that, guys? All right, so that's pretty fun, right? So I have the ability to go ahead and do that. But before I do that, I want to talk about this concept of evolved design. And I won't lie, I did not come up with this. I don't really even know who did, but I know where I learned it. I learned it from a guy named Aaron Droplin, awesome designer. The idea behind evolved design essentially is that you start somewhere and you end somewhere else, and you take a bunch of steps along the way. And if we go ahead and we kind of make note of those steps, then what ends up happening is we always have them to fall back on. And that's really true in all of graphic design and graphic artwork. We make 50 things for one to get picked, right? And that's cool. It's all about refinement, right? Getting it down to where it's got to be. But number 37 might have some merit, and it just didn't get chosen, but it could be used at another time. Or, with a fresh set of eyes, number 37 looks really good. Or a client could really like number 37, even though you felt really strongly about number 50, right? So the idea behind that is this. So this is where I started with Arby's, right? So I'm going to go ahead and just dupe it. I'm going to duplicate it. But so we have kind of a sense of like where we're going. I'm going to just create a little arrow. And I'm going to do that with a line segment. Okay. And I'm going to just increase my stroke just like this. And then I'm going to go to my stroke palette. And what I have is I have arrowheads. And I'm going to click on one, and of course it's giving me the beach ball of death because I'm alive. But when you have arrowheads, the one on the left is where your line is going forward, and the one on the right is where you started your line. So let's go ahead and do that. And I was actually wrong about that. This is for it's going forward. Okay, now that's kind of tough. That's That's like a giant arrowhead right there, and I don't even have an actual arrow anymore, right? So that'll work. And I'm just going to take my scale and I'm going to drop it down a little bit. Perfect. See that? That's all I need, okay? And I'm just going to go ahead and expand that appearance and then just expand it again, turn it into a fill, and then go probably into my, here, I'll zoom in here. I'll just go to my shape builder and just make one big massive shape here. Bam. That's a shape. Now let's color it black instead. Great. Okay. And it could be black or it could be any old color you want. Black's fine with me. So what I want to do is and I don't always put these arrows in place, but I do when I teach. So you can kind of see like the evolution again. So I'm going to close this extra palette. Don't need this. Move this out of the way. Cool. So check this out. That's where Arby started. That's just the text as I typed it out. Default, right? So I'm going to grab that again. And I'm going to just duplicate it down there. Again, that is selecting it, holding down the Option or the Alt key, clicking, dragging, and if you want it to be straight, hold down the Shift key too. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to play around a little bit with tracking here. I think I want this to be a little closer together. Yeah, that's pretty good. Cool, like that. All right, so check this out. Drag this down. Cool. All right, now zoom in a little bit here. What I want to do is I want to get this Y and this B a little closer together. So I'm going to click right in between them, and then I'm going to hold down that Option or Alt key on the PC and the left arrow and move that closer. You see that same command that did tracking can do kerning too. You just got to click in between places and it'll make it happen. So that A and that R probably can get pushed a little further apart from one another. A little closer. Nah, keep it away. There we go. This and this. And I'm kind of digging that. Cool. And then bring this down again. Okay. Again, the arrow's there just so you can kind of see where I've been, right? There's something about this big old apostrophe. It's just too big. So I'm going to make it smaller. Now, watch what happens when I make it smaller. It drops. See that? It falls down. So that's kind of a problem, right? Because like an apostrophe shouldn't be in the middle of two letters. That kind of looks like a weird bullet now. It really should be up there. So what do I do? Okay. So I'm going to take that apostrophe and highlight it again. And I'm going to use this command on my character palette. This is called baseline shift. And I'm going to press up here. And there I go. Look at that. And now I can go ahead and I can decide where I want it to be. I kind of think I don't want it above the Y. I kind of want it like right next to the Y. Just like that. And then I'm going to take this S and I'm going to move it in. Yeah, something like that. All right. Digging it. Okay. And here's the deal. All right. Already, I'm just going to put these two things together next to one another. Look at the difference between where I started and where I am now, right? I've gone ahead and I've controlled the type a little bit more. I've essentially gone ahead and I have, really kind of given it the respect it deserves, and I've, really respected the spacing there that, isn't always there with default. I've made a smaller and more appropriate looking mark here, and I've essentially, kind of tweaked it a little bit. Apostrophe is the word I was looking for before. For some reason, my head kept saying parentheses. I knew that was wrong. So anywho, I feel like I got to just make this go up just a little bit more. When I look at it, something about it, it's throwing me off. Okay. There. That's cool. So, all right. I'm there. I like it. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to steal this, go this way with it, take my arrow, just flip her. just like this. Okay, and what I think I want to do next is, maybe go in like two directions. So I'm going to take this here, and I'm going to make this other arrow, and I'm going to go here. And this is what I kind of dig about this whole evolved design. And again, this is all based on, I've been a fan of Aaron Droplin for a couple of years. He does this, and I was just like, yeah, that makes sense, right? So and in the logo video that I have in this module, you actually see that in that, the logo challenge that Aaron takes on. You see how he works this way, and it's just a really smart way of working, because I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take both a right and a left turn at Albuquerque here, right? So what I'm going to start with here is I want to go ahead and I want to play around with the concept of outlines. So I'm going to go to type, and I'm going to create outlines right here. And now what that does is that goes ahead and that takes this, and it's no longer type. It's no longer letter forms that I can then go ahead and edit. Instead, these are now all, points that have been plotted out. So now these are true vectors, which is cool because it means that I do not have to have the Bernard MT condensed font file to make this work. And it also means that I can modify it even further, because now these are, based on a bunch of dots, essentially, right? A bunch of anchor points. So it gives us a little bit more play, if you would. So we got that going for us. Along with that, what we also can do is we can, select certain parts individually and kind of modify them a little bit more. Up here, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go a different path, but I'll get to that in a little bit, okay? So here I've broken down into outlines. Great. And let's grab these and just move over here with it. And I'm going to start experimenting a little bit. And again, if I'm afraid to move forward, then I'm not going to move forward. If I'm afraid of screwing up, then I'm just not going to do it. So that's why designing like this is actually really, really smart. Because if I screw up, right, and I realize I might not see the screw up right away. It might take me a while to see it. If I only have this one mark on my screen, right, this one Arby's mark on my screen, and I just keep tweaking it, and I keep tweaking it, and I keep tweaking it, and I keep tweaking it, and I'm happy with it, and I'm happy with it, and I'm happy with it, then all of a sudden I start doing some things, and maybe I'm not as happy with it, but it's getting late and I'm getting tired, and I just want to work on it and get it done. We've all been there. That happens to everybody. Well, at one point you look at it and you're like, man, I've turned this into a piece of crap. And that sucks. That's the worst feeling, because then you got to go back and you got to do all the work. So at least this way, like if you feel like, it seems like it takes a little longer on the front end because you're always duplicating stuff, but essentially it's going to save you a lot of time on the back end, especially when you need to make modifications. And furthermore, what it allows you to do is it allows you to go ahead and basically have multiple versions to show a client. One of the things that I think that we have to be very aware of in graphic design and graphic artwork, in fact, is that we do not want to just come across like having a giant ego all the time. And one of the worst ways to show that ego is just by bringing them one thing, just one idea. You may have done all the sketching, and you may have refined it, and you may have got the best idea for sure. And that's great. You did all that behind the scenes work. But nobody sees that, right? Nobody knows you did all that work. When you meet with the client and you show them the one thing, then like, what if it's not to their liking? What if they just think it looks like, garbage? What then, right? Here's the thing. People like choice. It's that simple. People feel empowered when they get to choose things. Would you like fries with that? No, I'd like a side salad. Yes, I'd love fries. It's a choice, and we all get to make it. And you want to be able to bring your clients some things to choose from. So again, working like this allows for that to happen because you're not afraid to try new things because you can always fall back really easy. And at the same time, like you might end up being able to bring multiple versions and iterations to a client, and they're going to appreciate that a whole lot more, and that's how they're going to come back to you. So let's get back to this, okay? So now that this is outlines, right, what I can do is these are all grouped. So I can say object and ungroup, which now means that I can select each letter individually and move it around and do a whole bunch of wacky stuff to it, right? But just not that wacky stuff because that looks kind of bad. So what I'm going to do here is this. I'm actually going to go ahead and I'm going to take my white arrow, my direct selection tool, and I'm going to highlight the top of this B here. This would kind of bother me from the get-go, to be honest with you. And I'm going to try to bring that up. And look at that. Look at the difference between that and that now. Huge, right? This font feels better already because now I've given that the A center that capital B should have. What about if I did it like with the A? Is that going to work too? Well, let's try. Not really. And it doesn't. And the reason why it doesn't work is because there's this angle right here. Okay? So it kind of looks like he's got a weird hat on now. So I'm probably going to undo that. I don't like that. And I'm going to take my regular selection tool. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to grab that. And I think I'm going to twist this apostrophe just a little bit. Okay? Just kind of want to have a little sense on there how that works. There, that's cool. I dig that. All right, cool. So now let's take that. I'm going to grab it. Okay, it's all separate and move forward with it. So when I think of Arby's, right, when we did a little bit of that research, it talked about how it was kind of like a country place, like kind of like a, country, roast beef sandwiches, and it had the hat and everything. So I don't know why, but I feel like I want to try to put like some sort of, not texture in here, but maybe like an inline or something. And again, it might look like crap, but I'm going to try it anyway. So I'm going to just take a line here, and I'm just going to just kind of sort of simulate what that S might look like, just kind of something like this. That's all. That's all I'm looking for, right? And I'm going to take this and put this in here. Okay, and you can't see it because it's black and black. So let's go ahead and let's make it a different color that's going to stand out. How about this red, right? And that's kind of looking kind of weird. All right. And I'm going to go ahead and do my duplication. And oh my God, I'm about to fall off the artboard. So what? It's not a big deal. Okay. If this bothers you, let me just explain this. The artboard is your piece of paper. This is the desk or the table that piece of paper sits on. And Adobe Illustrator is letting you know, hey, it's okay to go and draw on the table. It's quite all right. Remember when you were a kid and like you got told by the teacher not to draw on the table? And some kids did. Some kids scratched their names in the table and stuff like that. Well, here you can draw on the table, and it's cool because you know what? If you make something really cool off on the table, you can copy and put it on the paper. You can't do that in real life. So anyway, so I got this red thing here. That's great, but I don't want it to be red anymore. I want it to be white. I just want to kind of take a look at it there and see if this has got any kind of value, and I think it kind of does. And I'm going to experiment with that with the other ones. Now, the cool thing about this word that I'm working with here is this. I really have a lot of things like straight lines, and that's cool. That's fun. It's gonna make my life a whole lot easier when I do this. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm just going to put a bunch of straight lines in. And again, I don't have a rhyme or reason at the moment. I really just kind of want to see what it looks like. And I just want to point out, too, that when I do these sorts of things, there's a chance that it might look good, and there's a chance it might be garbage. When I record online like this for my online class, this is the same exact thing that I would do in a classroom experiment, and I call it that, an experiment, because that's what this is. I did not pre-think this all that much, to be honest with you. I kind of came up with it on the spot, and that's because, sometimes that's just how it kind of works. You just kind of come up with a good idea and you want to run with it. And that's just kind of what I got going on here. And my good idea might be a great idea, and it might be garbage too. And I gotta try it out. And when I look at it like that, I don't really like it. But whatever, I'm gonna keep going forward with it because I might end up making out something really cool here, right? So let's go ahead and let's go this way with it. I'll probably start going down pretty soon, but I'm going to use a pretty fun tool here called the width tool, right? So if you haven't used the width tool before, it's pretty awesome. And this is how it works. You need a path, right? So any kind of line here, and I'm going to grab this width tool, and I'm going to come to the edge of my line, and I'm going to pull outward like this, and what you see is it changes the width of that edge of the line. And what the width tool does is it actually does this thing. It changes the variable line width. It doesn't give you variable line width. It changes your width. Here we have a variable line width profile, right? We can put on every single line. And that's kind of cool. I won't lie. Like, that's kind of what I want. And I sort of want one that kind of looks like that, I think. And see how that looks way better there than it did like that. That kind of looks like but this looks like somebody actually planned this out, and there was a method to the madness. So I can do this with the width tool for sure, or I can try to do it with this like little kind of uniform thing right here. And I think actually if I can use like what Illustrator is going to give me, I'm totally going to do that. But if I need to, I can take that width tool and I can do the same thing here. And I can do it manually. Okay? I can go ahead and I can add as many points or as few in as I want. And I think this B I got to do manually, right? Because I wanted that kind of thick part there. But I think another thing that I'm going to do, not so much I think I'm going to do, I am going to do, I'm going to start out with the default, and then I'm going to come and I'm going to grab this spot. I'm going to pull it. There we go. Change that up. Do that here too. Make this a little fatter. Same with the Y. All right, let's try this. Grab my width tool here. Pull this thing out. You'll notice how, like, when I zoom in here, I got a little dot called the path. I got this other one down here, path. Down here, I get this one, and I get this red dot in the middle and these white ones on the edge. That's the center of this. That's just going to let me pull this out a little bit. So let's go ahead and let's take this one here. Let's take this one here. We'll change this on its own. We know that we want it fatter because we've been doing it to the other ones, and it seems to work out. So let's do it to this one, too. If it works for the goose, it's going to work for the gander. Right, and there we go. All right, not bad, not bad. Really like the look here. Not 100% sold there, but it's the first kind of run that I'm doing on this. So, all right, grab my arrow, bring it down, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do some more stuff. And at the end of the day, like, you might say, like, I thought we were doing type tricks, and we are, by all means. This is what kind of type is in many ways these days. is this sort of stuff. So here's another trick I'm going to play around with, right? So these are lines, right? That's all they are. They're just paths. I can go ahead and I can change the color of them, right? And you see here, it's just the outline, it's a stroke. So I kind of want them to be more than paths. I kind of want them to be to be shapes, because I want to do something with these things. I'm going to pop holes in the Arby's name with these things. But that's going to be down the line a little bit. Before I do that, though, I want to try one other thing. Again, I wanted to put a little detail inside this letter. I wanted to give it kind of like an inline sort of stroke. And I think that that's happening here. So that's cool. But I feel like it needs just a little something more. So I'm going to do something kind of silly here and try something out. And it might be wonderful and it might be garbage. Again, won't know until I do it. So check this out. I'm going to grab this line, pull it off over here, make it black. All right. So I'm going to make it shorter. I'll just hold down my shift key so it does that. I'm going to go back to those arrows. Yep, that's exactly what I'm looking for. That one right there. See that? All right, cool. Now, I'm going to make them way, way, way smaller. Like 10%. Too small. Maybe 25. 35. Too big. 30. Yeah, it might work. I'm almost trying to create like a diamond. Actually, I shouldn't say I'm almost trying to create a diamond. I am trying to create a diamond. And I know I could have drawn it, right? But I could also do it this way and make it happen way easier and way faster. Zoom in a little bit more. And all I'm doing is just pulling this line out. And since it's got the arrowheads on both ends, bam, there's my diamond. Perfect, okay? So what if I take this diamond that I made, I'm going to copy it, make it white, and I'm going to toss it on this R right there. How does that look? Not going to lie, it's looking pretty snazzy. Let's make my stroke a little smaller. Oh, that does not look good when I do that. Let's get it back. I feel like it looks good. It just is a little big, right? But how do I like go ahead and I make it smaller? I try to do it with the stroke. That didn't work, right? Look what happened when I'm going to duplicate it again so we can see, and I'll zoom in. I try to make it with the stroke. Watch what happens. Bam. That's not good, right? That's not what I'm looking for. Could I go ahead and could I select it and could I just drag, right? No, because it's a line, right? I can't select that like that, so that doesn't work. It's got I have my edges showing, so it's not going to give a bounding box the way like a shape would. So what I need to do is this. I need to take, anytime I have like a line like this, I'm going to go ahead and I want to turn it into a shape. I'm going to go to object and expand its appearance. And then what that does, guys, is it turns it into an actual shape, right? In fact, there's this shape. If I want to point it out, there's this shape, there's this shape, and then there's this one here that intersects them. So I'm going to go ahead and select those things. And I can either do it with my Pathfinders or my Shape Builder. I did it with my Shape Builder before, so let's do Pathfinder now. And let's, bam, unite them. And now this is a shape, right? Now this will give me a bounding box, will allow me to make this bigger or smaller. Like that. So now, when I throw this up on here, I'm going to get some options. Make that black. Okay. Let's make this white. Oops. Just like this. Zoom in. When you're zoomed out, it's sometimes hard to grab things. So zoom right in, and you'll grab them real easy. Oh yeah, I'm liking that. That's pretty cool. That's pretty spot on in my opinion. So I'm digging this quite a bit. Okay. And again, not married to it. Not at all. If it sucks, it sucks. Don't eat it. But you don't know until you try it. So always, always, always make sure that you try. Gotta play with this rotation just a little bit more. That ought to work. Oh. Digging it. Like it a lot. Cool. Keep these here because those pieces are important. All right. Grab this stuff, dragging it down. Okay. I'm going to take this thing, this thing, this thing, this thing, this thing, and this thing. Remember, these are all lines, so we're going to go to Object and Expand Appearance. Now, they are shapes. Cool. All right. Let's take this shape and let's put it together with a Pathfinder, right? Now that's one shape, put this shape and this shape together. Oops, actually, you know what? Before I do that, I want to keep this stuff live. Wasn't thinking. Okay. Want to keep them separate first. All right. Drag it down again. And remember, you got the whole desk to work on, so don't worry about it. Tons of space here. Okay, now we'll take these two things together. Yep, just like this. Pathfinder. Pathfinder is, without a doubt, your bestest friend in Illustrator. It's like Lieutenant Dang to Forrest Gump. Like, you need this. Or like Bubba to Forrest Gump. You definitely want and need a good relationship with this Pathfinder tool. You want it. Okay. Cool. All right, now let's try something else. I'm going to do a knockout. Okay. So to do that, I am going to select a letter, right? It's not a letter anymore, but it is the letter A. And I'm going to select this piece in front of it, right? And I'm going to just go ahead and I'm going to say exclude. And it just is going to just cut. It's going to just, essentially it's going to look like I delete it, right? But I didn't really delete it. What it did is it cut a hole here in the middle, and then I colored the rest of it white. And the reason why I colored the rest of it white is because the thing in front was colored white. So now if I go ahead and I make this black again, then what we have going on here is we've got an actual hole versus what's going on here. No hole at all. So that's a pretty cool thing that we can do. Again, and we can do it because there's outlines. Can we do them all at once? Like, can I go ahead and can I grab all of these things and do a Pathfinder on them and just do a big exclude? Well, let's see. Did it work is the question. I always check it. And yeah, look at that, it worked. Cool. The only thing that you need to be aware of now, though, is that the A is still independent of all the rest of them, and these things are still connected. Or excuse me, aren't still connected, are now connected. The reason for that is because they have now been Pathfinder together and united together in a way. So if I ever needed to get, ungroup them, I can just go to Object Ungroup, and then bam, they're separate again. And so that is a version of Arby's. And let's check this out. Let's grab this that I just made, right? Copy it. And let's zoom out. Let's see how many versions I made, right? Half an hour. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Okay? So let's just kind of paste what I got here right next to where I started. And let's only look at that. Just these two. Bam. Cool, right? And you see how now this is a piece of text, and this is starting to become a logo, right? This is becoming different than that. It is actually starting to be transformative. We want that. We need that. That's what we want when we're doing a logo design. It's more than just, let's go ahead and make a little, drawing, and let's, put some random old text on it. We're doing something more than that. So we're starting to transform this more and more. So what I would recommend is that you do this, that you go ahead and you essentially, take these steps and you take these chances and you get to these different spots, and it's really going to be helpful to you as time goes on. And then you might say well, I kind of dig that, but I think I want to go back to the way it looked like when I was here, and it did have that diamond in there. Okay, that's cool. That works out fine. And, just so you're aware of that diamond I can make a diamond about 500 different ways. That just was one quick and easy way to utilize the arrowheads. But you can do stuff any way you want. It's fine. When we come back to the next video, I'm going to go in a different direction with this one. Okay? And I'm going to essentially try to keep this text instead of breaking it apart like I did here. Okay? Thank you.